Hi, everyone. My name is Chris with National Parents Organization, and today I'm here with Dr. Jennifer Jill Harman, and she is with she's an associate professor at Colorado State University. She's also the president on the International Council for Shared Parenting, that's ICSP, and we've got some exciting stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about the upcoming event that ICSP has and what effect it has had on the divorce industry. So, Dr. Harman, thank you for coming on this morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Dr. Harman, tell us a little bit about the background of the ICSP. How did it originate? And I guess have a conference every year. Tell us what that's all about.
Yes, so the ICSP is an organization that was established not too long ago. In fact, I don't even have the exact year, but our history is actually on the webpage, which is twohomes.org. But it was set up as a way to bring together leaders and people who have influence or do research on shared parenting. And it wasn't designed to be an advocacy group. It wasn't set up to be a group of legal professionals working with families or just scientists. The vision was to bring together three different sectors. So we have civil society, which are largely members who are advocates, or parents or other people who are just general kind of society members and just interested in the topic. We have a sector for family or the family professions. So we have lawyers and mental health providers who fill that sector. And then we have a sector on science. And so we have scientists and people who are good communicators of science and other things who can serve in that sector. And so all the tasks that ICSP is involved with works with these three sectors together, because it was believed that a lot of organizations focus on one or two of those things. They don't do all three and integrate them. And so the idea is then we thought to be more effective, it would be more impactful to bring together everybody across these different areas to try to better understand when is shared parenting most appropriate, when is it not, what are the pros and cons of it, and how can we best implement practices and policies and laws in a way to encourage children to have relationships with both their parents and their extended family.
That's awesome. And I didn't realize you had the three different areas. Are you seeing a lot of interest in all of the areas, or is there one area that seems to have more interest than the others?
Well, we're kind of a selective organization. You have to apply to become a member, and we have members from all over the world, which is great. And we really try to focus on right now. Some of our initiatives are to focus on capacity building, where if somebody is a member from a country that, for example, let's say they're a scientist from Nepal, but we don't have any other members from Nepal. Our membership drive is really to try to then identify family professions and civil society people who are also from that country so that they can work together locally. Because we are an international organization, and so it's hard for us to get our fingers into individual countries to do work because each country is so different. And we all have different needs and different issues. And so a lot of our members, we only select members' applications really from people and we have to maintain a balance. So part of our bylaws is that we can't have more than one sector that has more people than others. It has to be a balance. I mean, we're always off by a few people here and there, but
Sure.
And the members that we select are people who represent usually other organizations where they're from. So it's sort of a they represent more people than they themselves, right?
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and I want to focus a little bit on the international aspect of this because, I think a lot of times we get stuck in our own little bubble and we think that, well, this is just a problem in, my country. But, and having done social media for National Parents Organization for a long time, we often run articles and we see, these topics come up in Australia and in Europe, in Africa, literally all over the world. And it seems like that the world is starting to figure out. Some areas are doing it, I think, faster than others. But this is, this is a really good thing for families. But yeah, talk a little bit about the international aspect, because I'm really fascinated by, how the concept of shared parenting is sort of developing worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, so I think probably the best indicator of that is at our last conference, which was virtual because of COVID. But we had over 1,000 attendees, and I think we had people from about 45 countries represented there. That's a lot of countries of
That
people
that is a lot, yeah.
interested in the topic. I mean, there were countries, plus it was hard because it was live streamed, so there were people who were tuning in, which I'm sure was very early in the morning for them. Um, and so it'll be interesting. Our next conference is going to be live, but we will also have a live stream. It'll be in person, but we'll also have virtual as well. So it'll be, or I'm hopeful and optimistic we'll also see the same thing, because I do believe, based on our increased applications of where people are coming from different countries, as well as I think seeing more advocacy efforts in other countries, that we're starting to see it really expand the globe with concerns about that. But there's just a lot of different cultural differences, or cultural kind of historical differences about how custody is decided after divorce. For example, a lot of Islamic countries, fathers get custody of children more often than mothers. So it's a very different kind of challenges for shared parenting in those countries compared to others. So it is really interesting to hear the challenges from when we hear from our members of what they're facing. And we're hoping to capture a lot of that whenever we have our conferences, because I think it's important to understand the diversity.
Oh, absolutely. And I know you've done a fair bit of research on the topic. I think the challenges, it's interesting how the challenges are unique on sort of a cultural or country basis, right? But the underlying psychology, I think that's pretty universal worldwide. Is that true?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of beliefs about gender and who makes a better parent, and those all obviously feed into beliefs about custody, right? And when families separate or divorce, or what's in the best interest for children when that happens. And so those are some of and so that can be fairly universal, but of course, then there's the little nuances of how that plays out in each context.
It's always the nuances that are interesting. Talk a little bit, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the actual event that's coming up. So you have the conference coming up. When is it, and how can you said it's going to be live stream? People can tune in. Can people still attend in person now that we're kind of past the whole pandemic thing? Hopefully, a new
Yes.
strain
Yeah,
doesn't come out.
I'm very excited to be able to travel again personally. So, yeah, we're very excited about this conference because we haven't been able to meet in person for a long time. And one of our board members, Giannis, I can never pronounce his last name. It's a long Greek name, Papa. So I'm sorry, Giannis, I'm butchering your name. But he has helped to lead the organization of a conference in Athens, Greece, which is great because he and a lot of colleagues and scientists there have published a book just last year on shared parenting. And I contributed a chapter to it with my graduate student. And so we're building off of that to kind of bring greater awareness within the country, but then also internationally about what those efforts looked like in that country, kind of using it as a case study, but then building off of it and seeing what other countries are doing. It'll be the beginning of May. So I think it's May 5th through the 7th, a long weekend. And it's right in a beautiful hotel right at the base of the Acropolis.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we're also going to plan there's plans for different activities to do in Athens while people are there. So there will be a networking event on the rooftop of the hotel overlooking the Acropolis.
Oh, wow.
There's an optional dinner that people can attend on Saturday night of the conference, which is going to be actually at the Acropolis. And then we can have like a tour in the evening, and see all of Athens from there. And I believe that after the conference, there's also a plan to have a tour if people want to stay on and go to either visit, I think, Delphi, or they can do a cruise around some of the islands while people are there. I'm bringing my family, and we're extending our trip to really explore Greece while we're there. And so I'm really looking forward to that part. But the talk so far, we're building the program right now, and I'm very excited. We have 8 plenary speakers who've been invited. Some of on the website, we have people like Greg Ellis, who's leading the National or Parent Child United nonprofit that he set up. He's a Hollywood actor, and he's been alienated from his children, and he's really spearheading a movement with from off of his book, The Respondent, to really tackle shared parenting issues and family court corruption and things. So he's one of our speakers. I'm very excited about that. But we have many others. Dr. Edward Kirk is going to be speaking, myself, Brian Ludmer, an attorney out of Canada. And then we also have lots of talks that people have submitted, and we're in the process right now of selecting who's going to be presenting on different topics. And so we did extend the paper deadline until November 14th. So if anybody has a talk that they would like to present, or a paper they'd like to present, we're giving preference to people who can be there in person, because it's kind of different to be there and just watch a video from somebody else, right?
Sure.
But there are some people who just can't travel. We have, for example, a lot of delegates from Brazil, and it's expensive or difficult to travel to Athens. So we'll have a formal program probably by the middle of December, so people can see more of all the talks, and the schedule will be subject to change as we move things around, but it'll be a very exciting program, I think, and it will be live streamed and translated. The primary language is English, but it will be translated into Greek for local folks. There's an opportunity, if an organization from a country wants it translated into their own language, that if they want to donate whatever the fee is for that, we have the services available, and it can be translated into another language for any organization that wants to do that.
Yeah, Athens, Greece certainly sounds like an amazing place to have a conference. When's the conference going to be?
I think it's May 5th through the 7th of 2023. So, yes.
Well, that's awesome.
Friday to Sunday, that first weekend of May.
That's awesome. And it sounds like it's going to be an amazing time. It looks like there's going to be a lot of good information. So if you can't travel to it, you guys are going to live stream it, and then maybe do some translation for some countries. That's pretty great. What came out of the prior year's conferences? Was there anything that came out that sort of surprised you, or is there a specific goal that you're working towards on some of these conferences?
Well, each time we have a conference, we have a theme. And so at the Vancouver conference, which was the last one we held in 2020, that one, the focus was on the intersection of family violence and shared parenting. Because family violence is often brought up as a kind of a challenge to obviously, if you have a rebuttable presumption of shared parenting, family violence is one of those things, but it's
Sure.
a very thorny issue. So we made the focus of that particular conference to look at those types of issues. And we try to get as broad and diverse of a set of speakers with lots of different opinions on the issue. And I think we did a fairly successful job of that. There were some people, I think, who didn't even want to come to the table, which is kind of interesting, because if you can't, our goal is to just try to get as much information out and kind of come to some consensus. And it's hard to do that if people don't step up and want to be part of the conversation.
Right, absolutely.
But and that's why we try to cast our net far and wide when we bring in speakers, and hopefully this conference will draw a lot of different proposals for other speakers too. But the focus this time is more on just recent advances in research and practice, because so much has evolved. The scientific evidence on the benefits of shared parenting has it still continues to grow, and we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about practice and challenges of implementation. We're planning on having some roundtables and networking ideas, strategies to try to have conversations with people who attend on ways that we can coordinate efforts, right? And to capitalize on all the strengths of different organizations and the skills that people who are interested in this topic can bring, so that we're not all kind of working. I don't think people are working against each other, but I think we could do a better job working with each other. And so I think that part of the goal of this conference will be to not only talk about some of these new things, but also to try to find some useful strategies forward so that we can be effective.
Yeah, I think one issue that we've seen in shared parenting in general is in applying the knowledge, this new knowledge of the scientific knowledge that's come out about shared parenting, and really that's if you look at literature, or you obviously know it better than I do, but in my estimation, it's like the last 20 years of research has really been significant in showing that shared parenting is largely positive on kids and families. Given there's not some extreme circumstances, right? And so hopefully we can get sort of a repository together of all this great information and get that out and figure out how to apply that, sort of in the legal profession and to, parents when they're trying to make decisions about divorce and, get that information out to them. I think that'd be really a huge step forward for everybody.
Yeah, and I think like two of our plenary speakers are going to be there and talking about using media and social media to really bring the conversation to a bigger level, which is, I think, kind of we're at a point where we need to do that because there's a larger discourse going on out there with about gender and gender-based violence being promoted and heavily, and no one even mentioning that men could be victims as well. So we're hoping. I'm really excited about the two speakers that we do have. Greg Ellis, Petra Dieter, who also has a large kind of set of groups that she's helped to develop and have social impact with, and she has a documentary that she did. Greg Ellis is producing a huge docu-series on family court and shared parenting, and that's in process right now. So I think having their perspectives will be really great and kind of help to shift our focus to kind of a larger level of communication and dissemination. So I'm excited kind of about that new development that's going to be kind of talked about at the conference.
That'd be great. And any sort of last minute things that we didn't talk about? We're kind of running out of time here.
No, I mean, I think if anyone's interested in contributing some of your passion for this topic or anything, feel free to look at our organization and apply to become a member. We have lots of committees that are active. Some are about communication and trying to get out shared parenting information. We've developed a top 25 list of kind of the most impactful shared parenting articles that we have, and we now have that. I think we have it up on our website now, and we're preparing other databases to make it easier for people to get access to what we know about research in this area. We also have, some other exciting committees working on trying to, we're developing, for example, a report card of shared parenting laws across Europe, similar to what National Parents Organization did in the US. And so I know the president of NPO, Don Hubin, has been working and helping to do that in Europe. And we're hoping, I think, to present some of that at the conference in
Fantastic.
May. Yeah, and then our goal is to hopefully then expand that to other countries and try to get a good sense of where everybody's at and because unless we do like a needs assessment where we can say, where do we need the most support, then as a council, we can work to try to help facilitate that. So there's a lot of, and we also have a training committee that is an education committee that is working to try to create educational materials and other types of things for professionals, maybe handouts that they can have in their, offices, like give to their clients and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And so we're looking, I mean, it's not an easy effort and we need all hands on deck. So we're happy to take any applications if anybody's interested. So
And the website is it's twohomes.org. Is that right?
yes, yes.
And if people want to reach out to you directly, what's the best avenue for them on social media or through the university?
Yeah, so they can go to my website too. It's jenniferjillharman.com, and people can contact me through there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I really appreciate you coming on today and give us all this information. And we look forward to seeing what comes out of this year or next year's conference rather. And I know last year's conference, the information that came out around domestic violence was rather interesting. And I think it moved the conversation forward in many different ways. So we're looking forward to the same thing happening this next year.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Well,
All
thanks
right.
for coming.
Bye.
Bye.